You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Network segmentation is the practice of dividing a network into smaller, isolated zones to achieve key security goals. Its primary objectives are to limit the blast radius of an attack and reduce the ability of adversaries to move laterally once they gain access. By segmenting, defenders ensure that a compromise in one area does not automatically endanger the entire environment. For example, placing user workstations in one zone and critical servers in another creates boundaries attackers must cross, which can be monitored and controlled. Segmentation is not just a performance optimization, it is a deliberate security strategy that strengthens organizational resilience against intrusions. Logical segmentation techniques use software-defined constructs rather than physical separation. Common methods include virtual local area networks, VLANs, which isolate traffic logically within switches, and virtual routing and forwarding, VRF instances, which create multiple virtual routing tables. Subnetting also plays a role, dividing IP ranges into manageable, isolated segments. Logical segmentation provides flexibility and scalability, allowing organizations to implement security boundaries without needing dedicated hardware for every zone. When properly designed, these logical barriers enforce communication restrictions, reducing the likelihood of unchecked lateral movement. Logical segmentation is widely used in enterprise environments as a cost-effective yet powerful security measure. Microsegmentation extends segmentation down to the workload or application level, creating fine-grained isolation beyond broad network zones. Using software-defined networking or host-based firewalls, organizations can control which applications or services are allowed to talk to one another. For example, two workloads in the same subnet may still be restricted from communicating if their roles do not require it. Microsegmentation dramatically reduces the attack surface by ensuring only essential flows exist, making it much harder for attackers to pivot. While implementation can be complex, microsegmentation is increasingly important in modern cloud and virtualized environments, where workloads are dynamic and highly distributed. Physical segmentation remains an important option for high-assurance separation. In this model, networks are divided using entirely separate hardware-distinct switches, routers, and cabling for different zones. This eliminates the possibility of misconfiguration or logical bypasses that exist in virtual systems. Physical segmentation is often used in critical infrastructure, defense, and highly regulated industries where strict separation of sensitive systems is required. While costly and less flexible, it provides the strongest assurance that traffic cannot bleed across boundaries. Organizations must balance the operational expense with the security benefits, using physical segmentation strategically where maximum isolation is needed. Enforcement points are where segmentation policies become reality. Firewalls are the most common enforcement tools, applying rules about which zones can communicate and under what conditions. Switches with access control lists, ACLs, can block or allow specific traffic at the port level, while host-based firewalls provide control directly on servers or endpoints. These enforcement points are chokeholds attackers must attempt to bypass, making them critical for monitoring as well as restriction. Their correct configuration ensures segmentation does more than divide address spaces, it actively limits flows. Without strong enforcement points, segmentation becomes porous, offering little practical resistance to lateral attacker movement. Segmentation policy design requires careful planning of zones, trust levels, and permitted flows. Zones should reflect business roles. For example, separating production systems from development or isolating payment data environments. Each zone is assigned a trust level, with strict controls between high and low trust areas. Permitted flows define only the communications absolutely necessary for business. By thinking in terms of policies rather than ad hoc rules, defenders create consistent, auditable structures, Good design reduces complexity while strengthening defense, ensuring segmentation aligns with organizational needs. Poorly designed policies, by contrast, create gaps attackers can exploit or lead to operational disruptions. Segmentation also supports compliance and data protection requirements. Regulations such as PCI DSS explicitly require segmentation to isolate payment card environments from the rest of the corporate network. Similarly, healthcare and financial systems benefit from segmentation to protect regulated data. By dividing sensitive systems from general business environments, organizations demonstrate adherence to privacy and security standards. Segmentation makes audits easier by showing clear boundaries and limiting the scope of compliance reviews. Beyond regulatory needs, it provides assurance to customers and stakeholders that critical information is appropriately safeguarded. Compliance frameworks thus reinforce the operational value of segmentation. Exposure reduction for critical assets is another direct benefit of segmentation. By placing sensitive systems in restricted zones, defenders reduce the number of pathways attackers can use to reach them. For instance, a database holding customer records might only accept connections from a specific application server, not from general user workstations. This principle shrinks the potential attack surface and forces adversaries into predictable, controllable pathways. Exposure reduction is not about eliminating risk entirely, but about managing it intelligently. Segmentation ensures that even if attackers breach an edge system, they face significant hurdles before reaching valuable targets inside the network. Segmentation testing and validation are operational necessities. Networks are dynamic, with new systems, policies, and applications constantly being added. Testing ensures segmentation rules work as intended, blocking unauthorized flows while allowing legitimate ones. Validation may involve penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, or red team exercises to confirm boundaries cannot be bypassed. Continuous validation prevents misconfigurations from eroding security over time. Without regular testing, segmentation becomes a set-it-and-forget-it measure, vulnerable to drift and error. Operational discipline ensures segmentation remains a living, enforced control rather than a static diagram in a security policy binder. Access control is the mechanism by which systems permit or deny actions on resources. While segmentation restricts traffic between zones, access control governs what individual users, applications, or devices can do once inside a zone. This includes permissions to read, write, execute, or modify data and resources. Access control ensures that even within trusted boundaries, users cannot exceed their role. For example, an employee may connect to a database subnet but only retrieve the records tied to their job. Together, access control and segmentation form complementary defenses. One limits where attackers can go, the other limits what they can do. The principle of least privilege sits at the heart of effective access control. This principle dictates that users and applications should be given only the permissions absolutely necessary to perform their tasks, nothing more. Least privilege minimizes the damage possible if accounts are compromised, ensuring attackers cannot automatically escalate privileges or misuse excessive rights. Implementing least privilege requires careful mapping of roles, responsibilities, and permissions. It also demands regular review to ensure privileges do not expand unnecessarily over time. By enforcing least privilege consistently, organizations make access control not just a formality, but a robust barrier against abuse and exploitation. Ultimately, segmentation and access control work together to constrain attacker movement. Segmentation creates barriers between zones, forcing adversaries to attempt monitored, controlled pathways to advance. Access control restricts what they can achieve even if they reach new zones, denying excessive permissions and limiting their ability to exploit resources. Together, these controls reduce the impact of breaches, containing threats to manageable areas rather than allowing free rein across networks. Neither control alone is sufficient. Segmentation without access control still allows abuse inside zones, while access control without segmentation leaves assets broadly reachable. Combined, they provide layered, resilient protection. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. RBAC is one of the most widely implemented models because it simplifies management of permissions. Instead of assigning rights directly to each user, administrators create roles like HR specialist or database administrator and map permissions to those roles. Users are then assigned to roles, inheriting the relevant rights automatically. This approach reduces administrative overhead and makes auditing more straightforward. When staff members change jobs, administrators simply reassign them to new roles, ensuring permissions follow responsibilities rather than lingering. RBAC aligns naturally with organizational structures, making it practical for both medium and large enterprises seeking scalable, understandable access control frameworks. ABAC provides a finer-grained and more flexible alternative by using rules based on attributes. For example, a policy might allow access if the user is in the finance department, accessing from a corporate laptop, and during business hours. ABAC policies incorporate user attributes, resource attributes, and environmental context. This model is particularly powerful in cloud environments where dynamic, context-aware controls are needed. While more complex to design and manage, ABAC allows organizations to enforce nuanced security rules that RBAC alone cannot achieve. ABAC reflects the growing need for adaptive security, especially as organizations embrace remote work, mobile devices, and hybrid infrastructure. Enforcement points are where access control decisions become real-world restrictions. At the network level, firewalls and switches enforce traffic-based rules. Applications enforce access through role assignments, session tokens, or policy engines. API gateways filter requests based on credentials, attributes, and rate limits. At the operating system level, file permissions and kernel-level controls govern resource access. Each enforcement point acts as a gatekeeper, preventing unauthorized actions while allowing legitimate use. Ensuring that enforcement points are properly configured and aligned with access policies is essential. Weak or misaligned enforcement leaves gaps attackers can exploit, rendering strong policy frameworks ineffective in practice. Privileged Access Management (PAM) deserves special attention because privileged accounts pose the highest risk. These accounts administrators, root users, or domain controllers grant extensive control over systems. Indicators of abuse often come from excessive or unmonitored use of privileged credentials. PAM solutions enforce controls such as requiring checkout processes for admin credentials, recording privileged sessions, and enforcing just-in-time access. They also provide alerting for suspicious behavior, such as unexpected use of high-level accounts. By managing privileged accounts separately and rigorously, organizations prevent attackers from using them as shortcuts to full control. PAM ensures that keys to the kingdom accounts are safeguarded with maximum oversight. Identity and Access Management (IAM) systems serve as central repositories for policies, identities, and authentication methods. IAM solutions unify control across environments, ensuring consistent enforcement whether users access local servers, cloud applications, or SaaS platforms. They handle identity proofing, credential management, multi-factor enforcement, and access decisions. By centralizing identity and policy, IAM systems reduce duplication, simplify audits, and enhance security visibility. Without IAM, organizations face fragmented identity silos and inconsistent enforcement. IAM represents the foundation of modern access control, enabling scalability and integration with advanced practices like RBAC, ABAC, and federated identity management for cross-domain collaboration. Just-in-time JIT and just-enough access JEA techniques refine privilege allocation further. Instead of giving users permanent elevated rights, JIT grants access only for the time needed, while JEA ensures they only receive the exact permissions required for their task. Together, these strategies reduce standing privileges and shrink the attack surface. For example, An administrator troubleshooting a server might receive root-level access for 1 hour, after which the rights automatically expire. If attackers steal those credentials later, they are useless. JIT and JEA reflect the principle of least privilege in action, ensuring permissions are temporary, minimal, and auditable at all times. Segmentation policies must align tightly with access control rules to avoid gaps. If segmentation isolates database servers from general workstations but access control policies still allow broad queries from many accounts, attackers may exploit inconsistencies. Conversely, overly restrictive policies can hinder legitimate workflows, leading to workarounds that introduce new risks. Alignment requires coordination between network teams and identity managers, ensuring segmentation boundaries are reinforced by access permissions. Together, these controls prevent attackers from bypassing one mechanism while exploiting weaknesses in another. Integrated policy design ensures consistency, reduces blind spots, and strengthens overall defensive posture across systems and networks. Verification and auditing of access ensure controls remain effective over time. Access reviews conducted periodically confirm that users still require their current permissions. Attestations, where managers formally approve or deny continued access, create accountability. Auditing also identifies orphaned accounts left behind after employee departures, which attackers frequently target. These processes surface privilege creep, where rights accumulate beyond what is necessary. Verification and auditing provide assurance that least privilege principles remain enforced consistently. Without them, access control systems drift toward permissiveness, leaving organizations exposed. Regular review ensures defenses remain disciplined, accurate, and reflective of real business needs rather than past decisions. Automation enhances access control by provisioning and deprovisioning accounts based on lifecycle events. When employees are hired, promoted, or leave the organization, access must adjust immediately. Manual processes are error-prone and slow, often leaving users with excessive rights or lingering access after departure. Automated workflows tied to HR systems or identity platforms ensure that permissions align instantly with employment status. Automation also enables rapid scaling in dynamic environments, such as cloud deployments, where resources are created and retired frequently. By embedding automation into access control, organizations reduce human error, accelerate response, and enforce consistent security across evolving infrastructures. The strongest defenses emerge when segmentation, strong authentication, and least privilege are combined. Segmentation restricts network pathways, reducing opportunities for attackers to spread. Strong authentication ensures that only legitimate users cross those boundaries. Least privilege limits what users can do once inside, preventing abuse or escalation. Together, these layers create a robust defense in-depth model that constrains attackers at every step. No single mechanism is sufficient on its own. They work best as integrated controls. Organizations that prioritize all three drastically reduce both the likelihood of breaches and the potential damage when compromises occur. Defense emerges from coordination, not isolation. Ultimately, rigorous access control and proper segmentation materially reduce breach impact. Even if attackers compromise a workstation or account, segmentation stops them from moving freely, while access control denies them excessive rights. Compliance frameworks recognize this synergy, embedding requirements for both. For defenders, these measures are not abstract best practices but practical safeguards that limit adversaries' reach. Breaches will always occur, but layered defenses prevent them from becoming catastrophic. By enforcing segmentation boundaries and aligning access policies with least privilege principles, organizations transform sprawling, vulnerable networks into structured, resilient environments where risk is contained and managed effectively. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.